Welcome to draft season. The Super Bowl's over. There's no NFL film to grind for a while, but this gives us an opportunity to dig into the college game. Now, I don't like college football. I don't watch it during the regular season. That being said, we got to know who's coming into the NFL to understand what's going on in the NFL. This year, my hometown Bears, my fandom for whom has long since died, have the first overall pick. Now, I haven't been a Bears fan since Cutler left. They just do too many dumb things like draft Mitch Trubisky and Leonard Floyd and even Justin Fields. But I'm a little bit intrigued by who they're going to get. And with the first overall pick, whether or not they trade out, it looks pretty certain that they are going to get one of Will Anderson Jr., the defensive end out of Alabama, or Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle out of Georgia, both of whom are supposed to be incredible prospects. Now, personally, I would always rather have a good defensive end than a good defensive tackle, right? But if Jalen Carter happens to be Aaron Donald 2.0 and Will Anderson happens to be Leonard Floyd 2.0, obviously I'd much rather have the defensive tackle. I'm going to do a little mini series where I go through Jalen Carter and Will Anderson just to gauge people's interest in my draft coverage. But what I really want to do is eventually get to the quarterbacks because, believe it or not, I have slightly different opinions than the mass media or the general consensus when it comes to guys like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, even Will Levis. First, let's get my feet wet. Let's do a little bit of appetizer draft content. Let's quickly break down Will Anderson's game. To the film. Let's start with the TLDR. You don't want to watch the whole video? Here's what you got to know about Will Anderson. He is a speed rusher who wins from the outside using an incredible first step off the line. His burst is excellent. I think that he's a really good player and that he has a ceiling of being like a Von Miller, but I don't think that he's ever going to be a totally dominant player. And I think that his floor is that he's useful as a speed rusher on third downs, but not super special. Let's dig in a little deeper now. Let's start off with what makes him great. His first step is awesome. I gave it an A+. It's one of the best first steps I've ever seen. In some of these clips I'm showing you, he's bursting through the line in run defense so quickly that he doesn't actually have to provide any power to stop the run. And his inside moves as a defensive tackle it's basically all swim moves, but he's so quick it doesn't matter. You know what's coming, you can't stop it. So he's incredibly twitchy. I expect his 3-cone to be pretty damn good, and I expect him to jump out of the gym in the broad and vertical jumps. Now let's talk speed. Speed doesn't matter that much for a defensive end or an edge, but it does matter a lot on plays like stunts and when you're chasing down a player who's running away from you. Now, on some of these plays, I'm going to show you he's running a stunt where he moves across the formation and gets a clean shot at the quarterback, or plays where he's literally chasing down ball carriers. I even have a nice little pick six in here because when he has the ball in his hands, he's just such a fluid, athletic mover. When you combine that incredible burst with this really legitimately good speed, you get a player that's just legitimately difficult to conceive of stopping if you can't get a hand on him. Now let's talk about agility. Agility is just how quick he moves laterally, right? So we already know he moves from stop to start really quick. That acceleration is dope. We also know that when he's running in a straight line, he's hard to stop. Now, you combine that with his really good, not amazing, but really good agility, his ability to move laterally. This guy is a stunt king. You want to run twists, you want to run stunts, where he's going to start at the outside of the line, run through the middle, and get a clean look at the backfield. Now, before we move on to the other areas of his game where he's not as strong, this combination of agility, speed, and burst is the kind of thing that is going to make him a really, really useful player, even if he never puts the rest together. No matter what happens, he's always going to be fast, he's always going to be quick, and he's always going to get off the line lightning quick, which means at the least, he could be a Joe Tryon type, an athlete who a creative defensive coordinator uses to get on free running blitzes and smash whoever's holding the football. One of the weaker points of Will Anderson's game is his power. If you get a hand on Will Anderson, he's not going to move too well. And you can see him getting stuffed against some no-name offensive tackles in college. He's just not going to push through you. His bull rush isn't very good. And in the run game, he's willing and quick, but he's just not very stout. The hallmarks of a great speed edge rusher are agility, speed, burst, and bend. Will Anderson's bend is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. It's certainly a positive to his game. He will have above average NFL starter bend, which will allow him to finish at a pretty high rate relative to, like a Jadeveon Clowney has no bend whatsoever. He's really good, but he doesn't finish. Why? He can't turn that edge. Will Anderson can turn that edge. As far as moves go, Will Anderson has really one move on the outside. He's got this grab and stab move where you'll see here, he's going to run around the edge. He's going to get one hand into the offensive tackle as early as possible and then just kind of lift the offensive tackle's hands up and run around his edge. Now, he doesn't really have any other moves. We've seen in this video that he'll run a really nice swim move from the inside, but basically the only way he's winning that is because he's so much quicker off the ball than everybody he's facing. In the NFL, that won't work as well. Motor is a thing that's really, really hard for me to grade because I don't know these guys. I don't have the access that NFL GMs have. I don't get to meet these dudes and figure out what makes them tick. I don't get to have them in practice and see how hard they work, but I can tell from some plays which players are going to jog when they're out of it and which players are going to hustle and grind. And Will Anderson will grind. He's an Alabama dude. Those dudes typically have strong motors, and you can see him here never giving up on plays, chasing dudes down. And he's helped by his incredible speed, but that's a lot of effort as well. All right, size, there's no video for size, but just know that he's listed at 6'4". He's probably closer to 6'3". He's listed at 250 pounds. Let's say that that's generous. He looks to me to be about 6'3", 240 pounds, and that's not terrible, and I'm not that big on my defensive ends needing to be monsters. I just want them to get to the quarterback, really, and he does that. So his size is fine for me. In sum, I think that Will Anderson's a really good player. I don't think that he's like a first overall style defensive end, but he's the best I've seen so far. I've graded about 4 defensive ends to this point. I like him the most. I think that he's got potential to be really good. I think he's got a pretty high floor. You got to use him as a 9 technique speed rusher. What does that mean? It means he's not Calais Campbell, right? Don't line him up at the defensive tackle. You don't even want to move him around that much within the defensive end archetype. Right, so there's 9 technique, which is way on the outside like this. And then there's like a 4-eye technique, which is like a 3-4 end like this. You want this dude out wide, getting around the corner and getting to the quarterback with the least contact possible. He reminds me a lot of Kamarion Wimbley. Now, I've seen Von Miller comparisons, and I like him. I just think that Von Miller was a little twitchier. I think that his lateral movement is insane, and Von Miller has a surprising amount of power. Von Miller should go first overall in this particular draft. He's old and not in this draft. I think that Will Anderson's a lot more like Kamarion Wimbley, who had pretty good moves and really good athleticism, but was just a little weak. And I think that that's going to be Will Anderson's niche as well. That's all I got for you regarding Will Anderson. It's really early in my process. I've only graded 3 or 4 defensive ends. He's my favorite so far, but there's still a couple of big name guys I got to get to, and I always find a diamond or two in the rough. That being said, if this is what the Bears are going to get with the first overall pick, I'm a little underwhelmed. I don't think that Will Anderson's going to be a megastar, but I do think he'll be really good. A B+ grade, which is what I've given him overall, would put him right up there with like a Kayvon Thibodeau or even a Trayvon Walker. I think that he'll be a very, very serviceable defensive end at the least because he's just got athletic traits that you can't teach. And he's clearly, at least to some extent, got enough polish to play in the NFL, right? He's not like some complete project the way a lot of people viewed Trayvon Walker, honestly. I'm excited to see Jalen Carter, and frankly, for the little tiny piece of me that still roots for the Bears, I hope it's better because I don't see a generational prospect in this guy. I don't see a Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Nick Bosa. I don't even necessarily see an Aiden Hutchinson. I think Hutchinson was just a smidge better than this. But if you like this, hit me with a comment. Let me know. This is my first draft season doing YouTube videos. I don't exactly know what I'm doing yet. If you want me to go further in depth and break down the actual technique Will Anderson's using, I can do that. I don't want to bore you guys, though. What I really want to do is burn through some of these top 5 players so I can do the videos that I think will be the most popular. I want to break down the quarterbacks because, as is typical, I'm not as high on some of these guys as the media en masse is. Like I said, let me know in the comments. Hit me with a like or a subscription if you appreciated this. I want to thank all of the people who put together these awesome cut ups on YouTube because it's impossible to get all 22 for college games unless you know a guy who works for the college, and I don't. So I lean heavily on other creators who mash up full game breakdowns of college players. And I suggest that you do the same because I can show you some clips that I think are important, but I'm not showing you every play. And I don't think that highlight cut-ups are very helpful at all unless you're just trying to find a player's athletic ceiling. Till next time, I'll be grinding film. Asta.